Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I am here to hopefully show you guys how to complete our first stitch activity, just the even equal running stitch, okay? In order to complete that, you're going to need a rectangle of fabric. I hope I'm showing that okay. But 7 inches by 9 inches is what you're looking at, sort of a rectangle. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect or pretty, but you're going to cut this out of your basic muslin, okay? And of course you need your needle all threaded up and ready to go, just like in the first video tutorial. So what you're going to do is take your fabric and you're going to fold it lengthwise, okay, hot dog style, so that it looks, get out of here. It looks just like this, okay? So with just some basic pins here, we're just going to take these and you want to lay them so that they're flat. So if you lay it just like that so that the needle is kind of coming out both sides instead of just coming out one. I've seen people kind of pin this way before, and that kind of bites because then you got this pokey end sticking out, getting you in the hand repeatedly, which is not worth your time. So, I'm just going to go ahead and lay some pins. 3 pins is enough. You don't have to pin it if you don't want to, but this prevents your layers from shifting as you're sewing. So then, also, not a step that's necessarily necessary, but it is super, super helpful. So I like to take a straight edge and just take my piece of tailor's chalk or bar of soap, whatever you have at home, and I like to just draw a line. Okay, so that red line, I wonder if you guys can even see it. Yeah, just barely. That line right there is going to serve as sort of our guide as we're going and sewing our actual line here. So this is very easy, very easy. We're going to start at one side of our line, okay? Whichever side we deem to be the back of the project. Since my pins are up front, I'm actually going to deem this as the back of the project. And just by holding it up kind of to the light, I can see where my line is going to start, but you can also just see by poking it through, okay? So about a little start away from there, I'm just going to go ahead and poke my needle right through the fabric and pull all the way up to my knot, okay? So once the knot is nice and securely at the back, that's when we can go ahead and go back through, okay? You want to keep your stitches small. It's important because the larger your stitches are, the more likely the thread is to catch. Okay, and if the thread catches on something and it pulls it out, then you're going to end up with a broken seam, which is not good. So by pulling it all the way through, I ended up with my first stitch. Okay, if you're looking for reference of how large that is, I mean, you can just see that based on the size of my thumb. It's not very big. On a ruler itself, if you want to see how big it is 2 of the smallest marks. Okay, so 1/8 of an inch is what you're looking at. So, in order to make our next stitch, you're going to do the exact same thing, okay? Now, before you push it all the way through, to check your distance and try to keep your stitches nice and even, I just poke the tip of my needle through first and check where it's going to be. Make sure it's where I like it. If not, I can pull it back out and I can change it. But this looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it so it is all the way up, okay? And I'll do the same thing. You are always going to push the tip of the needle through the fabric. Get rid of this pin here. You're always going to push the tip of the needle through the fabric wherever the thread is coming from. Okay? If you go through the same side twice, you'll end up doing what's called a whip stitch, which is going to be a different stitch for later, but it's very common that beginners do that over and over. So wherever the thread is coming from, that's always going to be the side that you poke back through. Okay? That makes sense to you. So you're just going to keep on keeping on until you make it about the same distance from the other side. Okay. Now, there's one more rule you got to know about before you can get to the other end. Okay. If you run short on thread, so let's say from project to needle, let's say your needle is here. You have this much thread left. Okay, that's not a lot of thread to work with. I always call it an L. Okay. So if you get down to an L's worth of thread, then you need to stop, tie a knot, rethread your needle, and pick up where you left off. So I'll show you guys how to tie that knot as well. I'm going to do that on the back side because, of course, I want to try to keep my knots on the back to keep this nice and pretty. So when we have it on the back side, okay, this is the knot that takes a little bit of practice. Okay, I'm just going to state that right now. Try not to get frustrated because it can be a little bit challenging. So what you're going to do is take 2 fingers, I wrap around once, okay, and you've made a little loop in between the fingers. So we're going to go ahead and go through that loop. Okay, now you'll notice I have my loop here, but I don't want to let go of it. If I'm keeping my 1 finger in here, because if I try to let go of it, I won't be able to control where the knot's going to be, and I want it to physically touch the fabric. So the best way to do that is to take your loop and open it up. Okay, by doing that, you'll be able to control exactly where those threads cross, and once it touches the fabric, all you have to do from there is put your finger on where it's touching and pull it nice and tight. And your knot will be right there. Now, yet again, just like with your other knots, and I'm going to do it really quick, yours will take a little bit longer because, again, tying this knot is tricky, but I've done it like a million times, so I make it look easy. But you want to tie it more than once. Again, 3 times is the magic number. So I just did that right there, and then I'm just going to cut it away the excess. Okay? And now, if I needed to, I could rethread my needle or tie a new knot at the end once I rethread it. And then I'm just going to pick up where I left off so I can continue this running stitch. Okay? Keep in mind of that L's worth of thread. That's very important. So there's one other thing that I want to show you here, and that has to do with making sure that your thread doesn't get twisted. One of the things that'll happen to people is this thread, this excess as you're sewing, will get this like twist in it, and that twist will create little knots and bunches and things that will frustrate the living daylights out of you. Trust me, just ask any students that have taken this course before. Easily solved problem. Every once in a while, I do it like every 8 to 10 stitches or so, hold it up by the project itself and kind of smooth down the thread. Okay, and I like to, it's hard to see here, but I like to full hang, so my needle is actually hanging, and then go all the way down the thread. That is going to get the twist out of your thread, so you won't end up with that problem. Okay, and there is the finished product of our even stitching line. And remember, this is going to be used basically throughout the duration of your entire project. So if it feels a little clunky at first, please keep in mind, this is a new skill just like any other, okay? It's not going to be easy the first time, and if it is, good for you. You're already a little ahead of the game, but if not, that's okay. Okay, you're going to get lots and lots and lots of practice with this. The thing with sewing is take a deep breath. If you're frustrated, put it down, pick it up later. Okay? Thanks. Good luck.